Hello and welcome to our webinar. I'm Sam Bogosh, CEO of Axel Video, and today we'll be talking to you about our Axel Pulse user-generated content app. We thought it would be good for informative purposes to use it in a real-world environment. So one of our colleagues is actually on site outside the Cleveland Republican National Convention this week, and so we're going to be going back and forth to him to get sort of live usage of the product from Cleveland. So I'm accompanied today by Patrice Gutebel, who's the product manager for Pulse, J.D. Wilcox, our evangelist, who's in Cleveland right now, and Jim Franzreb, who heads up our marketing. The webinar should take about an hour and is going to start with a field demo of Axel Pulse. We'll be showing it in its live streaming mode as well as its capture mode. And then we'll be doing a more detailed demo and introduction of Axel Pulse, followed by a demo of the web user interface for intake of clips from the field. We'll have the question and answer session at the halfway mark, and then we'll spend the second half of the presentation talking about the rest of a full workflow involving Axel Pulse. And that will start with our Axel 2016 media management application and also include demos of our Axel panel for Adobe Premiere Pro and the Axel Edit iOS application. So essentially we'll be taking this in steps over the course of the hour. As I say, we will be taking questions throughout, and I look forward to any questions you may have. So just to give a sort of high-level sense of what we're doing here, the Axel Pulse app is the actual iOS field application. In addition, there's a web component to that where you basically intake all of the clips from the field. And then we have the Axel Media Management app, the Axel panel for Premiere Pro, and Axel Edit, as I've mentioned. So these are basically all of the topics we'll be covering in the course of the webinar. So what I'd like to do right now is basically go live to JD, who's in Cleveland, and we can be showing you what he's seeing with the Pulse app. So here we have JD, our intrepid field reporter. He's out there in the square in Cleveland where a lot of the protests have been taking place, and he's captured some great footage over the last day or two. So this is him live right now. There's a go live mode in Axel Pulse where you can essentially do live streaming from anywhere. And that's captured over standard RTSP protocols. So JD is basically streaming at the moment. We actually have someone there with him who's using live streaming on their iPhone, and they're actually forwarding, if you will, a view of JD as he walks around the main square. The basic concept of Axel Pulse is to turn your community into content creators. And anyone with an iPhone, whether it's iPhone 5 or 6 or 6S series, and of course the larger phones, the 6S Plus and 6 Plus are supported. Any of those phones can basically instantly turn on either a live stream or upload clips in response to missions that you put out. And when I say you, it's typically either a broadcaster or a corporation that wants to encourage more involvement by either their audience or their employees in the field. And so you can create these missions, encourage people to submit media, and then have them submit that media in a managed and very sort of curated way. So at this point, I'd like to switch to my colleague Patrice, who's going to demo the iPhone app, and then we're going to segue from there to a demo of the web interface, which we'll be using to sort of capture and review the clips as they come in.
Thanks a lot, Sam. So basically, you will see right now the Mac desktop, and we have plugged in an iPhone SE, so it's the smallest size for the iPhone, but just like Sam mentioned, it is compatible with the also larger screens version of the iPhones. So once I unlock my phone, I will find the app located at the top left of the phone screen. Once I launch it, what will happen is we are going to land into the different missions that have been allocated to this phone specifically. And from there, I can basically review the different clips and missions. So for example, if I wanted to see the last clip that has been shot for the first day of the convention, I will click on the little eye that is located on the right side of the mission. By pressing it, I will then load the phone and I will see basically the last clip that I have uploaded from the phone. At the bottom, you will see that I can also press the record button as well as on the right side of each mission. So if I press the record button, it will bring me straight to the recording, asking me to rotate my phone. Once I rotate the phone, I can press the record button, or I can take existing footage that I have. So by taking an existing footage, I will basically find, for example, this protest here. I can easily trim the video that I have. If I stay pressed hard enough, I will be able to basically have a more detailed view of the frames that I'm going to trim it to. And once I press choose, it will prepare the video to be uploaded. And I will be able to enter a description of the video and select a mission as well that I have. For example, I will choose a protest and I will press upload, and from there the video will be uploaded to the S3 server. And this is the demo of Axel Pulse on the iPhone. And Sam, back over to you.
Thanks. So while we're doing that portion of it, I thought we might also give you a sense of what the web user interface looks like. So for that, actually, Patrice, if you can just get the other computer going, I'll make you the presenter.
So I believe that by now you can see my web browser. So the first thing that happens once I get to the Axopulse website will be a sign-in screen. Everything that you will see here is customizable. So you can brand it with your logo, your color scheme. I will enter my username and a password, and I will sign in straight to Axopulse. This is the main viewing area. This is basically where you will see all the clips that have been uploaded by JD, who is live in Cleveland. And on the left side, what you can do is actually filter, because as you can see, we have multiple pages. And from there, I can basically filter per missions. If I wanted to retrieve what has been uploaded, you will see all the missions here. I can retrieve what has been uploaded for the first day of the convention, and I will filter the different content that I have. You can, of course, retrieve by date, by users. You can also go further down and choose the duration of the video, or the status as well, whether or not a video has been approved by a curator or rejected. Here we have no videos that have been recorded. We also provide a search tool, so I can easily go here and search, for example, footage of the class. And as I will enter the search, I will start to filter the content and retrieve different tags or descriptions or keywords that have been used by the field agents to upload the different videos. And from there, I can, on the top left of the thumbnails of the video, I can select them. I can either change the status of the video and approve them directly or reject them. I can also download the videos directly if I need to actually use them directly. But what is important to know is that the videos are being synced as well in the background to our Axel media system, media asset management system. It does not have to be Axel. You can use any systems that you see fit for your needs. I can also delete the clips that I know will not be interesting enough or too offensive if there is any such clips uploaded. And to preview the clip, what we simply need to do is press on the thumbnail. And from there, you will see that I have the description that have been used, as well as the user who uploaded the video. Thanks a lot, JD, for this footage. And you can change the approval status. I already done it earlier in my demo. And you can then play the video as well, and you can scrub it. We have a much more powerful video player in the Axel 2016 Media Asset Management solution that I will demo later. Lastly, I will show you how to create missions now. On the top here of the interface, you have the different tabs where you can manage the users, you can manage the groups, and you will also be able to create campaign codes for people to sign up if you want to open it to the general audience and capture even more footage. But for now, we are going to simply focus on the dispatch feature. So from this mission page, I can create a new mission. I can also search for different missions that I will have. So if I wanted to search, for example, for the protest, I will find directly the missions that are associated with it, and you will be able to also view the videos that are associated to this mission. So let me create a new mission for the final day of the Republican Convention at Cleveland. So I simply enter it, give it a name, and you can enter a description. You will be able to, below the description, decide when the mission starts. It can start later, so you can prepare tasks and missions for the whole agenda. So I can say, for example, starting at 10 a.m. today, and I can also decide on the expiration date. So I can say, for example, 1 a.m. on Friday. And below the selection of the dates, you will be able to choose either a campaign. Again, the campaign is if you want to allow people to, the broader audience, to record. I can also choose the different groups that I have. I can even choose specific users. So if I wanted to allocate it to Patrice, so I can even send it directly to JD. And from there, we'll create the mission, and it will be available on the phone app now in the list of missions.
Actually, Patrice, JD just did a recording a little earlier today with kind of a walkthrough of what it looks like to use the app from his point of view. So maybe we could play that for folks. It may not come through as well as we'd like through GoToMeeting. But we will have a better version of this posted to our website anyway. But let's give that a try and just see how well it plays through the meeting app.
So now I'm going to give you a live demonstration of how we would use Axel Pulse in a news gathering environment. We're here at the RNC convention in Cleveland, and now I'm just going to fire up the app on my iPhone. It starts right up, and it gives me a warning to make sure I orient my phone for really good video, and I did. And now I'm going to hit the record button and go find some footage. And here we've got a Vietnam veteran, and he's protesting, I guess, the war with the peace flag, and that's a great shot. Now I'm done. I'm going to hit the stop button, And here I can trim this clip if I want to. When I'm done trimming, I'll hit the save button. And it's compressing this to be saved. And now, here's where I can put in a good descriptive name for this clip, and I'm going to type in soldier. And if I want to choose a mission for this video clip, I can do that here. And now I'm going to upload. And that's it. And now, depending on your internet speed, the video clip is going to upload to the server, and you can use it in any video situation that you want to. And that's it. It's that easy.
So JD reproduced exactly the different steps that have been shown earlier, where he went to shoot this soldier and upload it to the our Axel Pulse server, and you will actually retrieve this clip again right here, where that has been shot right here. And if we think it's good, then we can simply approve it. We can enter different tags. You will see the mission that it has been allocated to and retrieve all the shots.
Thanks, Patrice, and thanks, JD. So while we were going through the first part of the webinar so far, we have had some questions. And so one of them is, are we recording the webinar? The answer is yes, and it will be available for later viewing. We also have a question whether it's possible to use cameras that are not iPhones. Currently, we don't have support for other cameras, so for instance, Android devices could be very interesting. So could using external cameras and GoPros and so on. Right now, that material can be loaded to the Axel 2016 MAM, but the Axel Pulse interface and the whole kind of mission and media gathering aspect is currently only available for iPhones. We also had some questions, how much storage is included, because this does use an Amazon S3 backbone. And I'll be talking a little bit more about that in the next phase of the presentation. So with that, let's move ahead with the presentation actually. And so I'll turn this computer into the presenter. So by way of context, you know, a general ascent this year has been a pretty amazing one for video, and in fact, it's been declared the year of video by no less than Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook. Here he is on the stage of their annual developer event, F5, and you know, obviously, it's not just Facebook that's excited about video right now. It's pretty much everybody. Another example of this is Twitter's Periscope app. 18 months ago, it hadn't even launched yet, and today over 1 million hours of live streaming are being sent and viewed on Periscope. So it's a pretty amazing development in a very short period of time. And you don't have to look much further than the headlines really to see the impact that direct video is having across a wide range of parts of the world and disciplines. Just to name 3 examples of the last few weeks, you know, the Facebook Live coverage of some of the police incidents has really been critical to the development of the Black Lives Matter movement. The U.S. Congress had a sit-in by the Democrats where the Republicans essentially turned off the video feeds, and the congressman decided they were going to sit it out overnight anyway, but use a combination of Facebook Live and Periscope, and it made a big political splash. And finally, in Turkey last week, the coup was basically turned around by the president Erdogan using FaceTime to get some video out from where he was and tell the population that he was coming back to Istanbul and to basically gather at the airport and a few other main locations. And they were able to absolutely turn around a coup by the army. So, you know, you start to see not only the viewership of media exploding, but also the direct impact that it's having on governments and other organizations. Now, the problem for those of us in the media industry is that a lot of this communication is direct. It's direct by way of Facebook, it's direct by way of Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and all of that viewership is basically going away from traditional media. So the challenge is, how does traditional media and also targeted media like branding push back on this and capture some of this enthusiasm for capturing video, but with their brands on it. So what Axle Pulse is it's a branded mobile app. What we haven't shown you is some of the branding options, but essentially every place where it says Axle, it can have the logo of a broadcaster or a media organization or a corporation. And it can be distributed free at no charge, so everybody can just get it from the App Store. It combines uploading of specific clips, as in the case of that tutorial by JD, and also live streaming. So there's basically a Go Live button that you can press that allows you to go live at any time with a live feed going back to the head end. And finally, broadcasters, media companies, and corporations can provide incentives for using the app. Those are obviously on a per deployment basis, so there isn't any fixed rule for what those incentives could be. You can pay people to go out and get footage. You can give them coupons. You can give them special access to other content. So there are a number of ways to do that, and we intend to structure those for each customer, obviously. So how does it work? Axle Pulse takes advantage of all the cloud developments of the last few years, and we employ very standard but extremely robust back-end technologies like Amazon S3 for the storage, encoder.com for the encoding, Heroku for the database hosting. The net of this is that as you push your material up, it has an accelerated upload into S3. All of the footage that Patrice was showing you earlier is basically cached in S3 and then synced back down to your on-premise deployment of Axle. As he also mentioned, it doesn't have to be Axle. You could just have plain vanilla storage, and you could also have another media management system, something like Avid's Interplay, for instance, or really any system at all that can catalog media and allow further reuse. The live streaming is designed to be able to go either directly back to the facility, or if you prefer, it could be pointed to a cloud location as well. Either way, it's one-to-many streaming, so once the stream has been set up, any number of people can view the stream, and it's also recorded for later use. So who can benefit from a system like this? As we mentioned, obviously broadcasters, both national and regional. I think in general there's a lot of budget pressure on these broadcasters, and the reality is you can only deploy so many trucks and people with professional cameras. So to be able to extend that force, either by giving this tool to your employees and affiliates, or even to your audience directly, is a very effective way of getting more feet on the street and gathering more footage from a lot of key live events. In addition to broadcasters, though, newspapers and other forms of content organizations are doing more and more video. So there's a convergence happening between broadcasters, newspapers, regional web companies, and they're all fighting for the same eyeballs and advertising dollars. So we expect that a lot of the users of Axle are going to be non-traditional broadcasters that are nonetheless in the news business. A third use is among corporations and brands. So there, the uses are actually a little bit different. Corporations may want to use this for kind of all-hands meetings. They may want to use it for best practices and training events. And they may also want to use it for submissions of ideas throughout a large corporation. One of our companies is a Big Five accounting firm, and they have about 180,000 employees worldwide. You can imagine that there'd be a lot of call for teams located all around the world to be able to share information through video, share their best practices, and essentially compare notes and add to the corporate repository of useful content. It can also be used with consumers to promote brands. So you could, for instance, if you're a consumer marketing firm, you could give this app to everybody who requests it, and they can submit all the uses that they've had for the product. An example might be, say, outdoor gear. Send us videos of you climbing or hiking with our boots or with our carabiners or what have you. And so it extends into sporting products, outdoor products, apparel, etc. And finally, and this one was kind of a surprise to us, but probably shouldn't have been, because of the boom in events and music festivals, there is a lot of demand for essentially location-specific, site-specific video. So if it's a big music festival, whether it's Glastonbury or Bonnaroo, you can imagine it would be great to be able to give out a free app that was branded for the festival and its sponsors, and then have everybody there submit video, which could then, for instance, be put on the jumbotrons as you see fit. So while a band is on the stage, people could be capturing video, uploading it, and then that could be curated and put on the live screens between acts or even during the acts. So a lot of interesting ways to essentially grow audience engagement in non-traditional ways with this app. How is it priced? The complete system, including Axle 2016, unlimited copies of the Pulse app, and the Axle Pulse intake web interface, is $50,000. And that's for a purchase. It doesn't cover the operating costs for the web infrastructure, but those are obviously set up on a per customer basis. Alternatively, we are having monthly subscriptions where people can sign up, and this is perfect for the events, for instance. You might just sign up for 1 month, a few weeks leading up to the event and a few weeks afterwards, and then we'll have setup fees in addition to the monthly fee for the branding, the app store, etc. So in that way, we're able to service people that might not have the budget for a longer term purchase, say in the case of a news organization who want it year-round. But these music festivals and other specific events might be able to afford it just for the event. And in every case, there's unlimited distribution of the branded iOS app. We've already done the demo of the intake, so these slides are a little bit out of order. Let's actually see if there are any other questions. Okay, here's a question from Axle Pulse. Can you transfer to any location? So the answer is yes. There is no limitation on where you can transfer it to, and there's a download button where you can select one or more of the assets and download them from wherever you are. Now there's also a sync function that pushes it across to the Axle 2016 media management system. But that occurs in the background and essentially doesn't prevent you from doing emergency downloads if you have a time to air issue and you just want to grab that one file. Another question is, how is security handled? So the answer is there are several levels of security in Axle. Obviously, you have to log in from the mobile device, and when you first log in, you have to supply your information to the Pulse app. At that point, also the head end, the company that is managing the app, can include a disclaimer or whatever legal requirements they have, and so the person clicks OK to acknowledge that they've signed off on those issues. But essentially, every time somebody submits footage, you know who it's coming from, and it's a one-way path. That is, they have no visibility, unlike the intake dashboard. The users of the mobile app only see the footage that they're submitting. Now, when it comes to the intake dashboard and the rest of the workflow that we're going to be showing, there's encrypted username and password access. We're using pretty robust web standards for that. And of course, solutions like Amazon S3 have pretty powerful security in their own right. But like any cloud system, there are, of course, possibilities for misuse. And one of the things we emphasize is that the cloud system is really a way station as the material comes in. You're going to want some on-premise storage and on-premise management, which of course can be much more secure because it's behind your firewall. And the sync capabilities here allow all of the footage that is used to get pushed along to the on-premise system. All right, so with that, let's talk a little bit about Axle 2016, which is the back end to the front end that we've just been showing you. It's what we call radically simple media management, and it's been designed to make it a lot easier to manage large amounts of incoming media from whatever source. Obviously, Axle Pulse is one such source, but we also handle traditional camera intake. We handle uploads of any kind, Aspera, FTP. However the files get to you, we make it radically simple to manage those files on your shared storage. A typical scenario that we see is where people have accumulated a large amount of footage, often on loose hard drives or maybe SAN or NAS storage, and then they can't find anything. You know, they know they've got stuff, and maybe there's little post-it notes applied to the different drives, but that's a long way from really being able to find material. So Axle 2016 lets you find the material. It has very powerful search tools. You can subclip, you can approve, you can generate proxies to preview the assets, much like you've already seen in the Pulse app. But the player in Axle 2016 goes well beyond that and allows you to mark in and out and subclip specific clips. You can also tag and annotate the material in the timeline, and then you can review and approve clips as part of a collaborative workflow. So with that, I'm going to switch back to Patrice for a demo of Axle 2016.
Thanks a lot, Sam. So by now, I believe you are seeing again my web browser, but rather than being connected to the Axle Pulse server, I am connected to our media asset management system. It is accessible via the web browser. There is no client software needed. And the first thing that you will see, just to further confirm the security question that we had earlier, will be the login page, which has the password encrypted. And once I log in, I will simply access the different folders or volumes that the administrator has been given to me. So once I land into Axle, I have different areas. The main screen that you will see here will contain the folders. On the left side, I can simply expand or collapse and see the folder tree. And for example, we already have synced earlier the first 3 days of the convention. So I can simply click on one of the folder, and on the right side, you will see that it has been refreshed, and I can see now the content of my different clips. Below the list of folders that I have access to, and everything is actually per folder. Axle will change a little bit how media asset management works. Rather than having a system that will force you to create collections and check in the files into specific collections, we are simply monitoring what is going on in your storage. So we sit on top of your shared storage, and it can be any storage that you want. You will have, you can have a simple NAS, you can have the Access storage or Nexus storage from Ivid, you can have a QNAP NAS. Any storage that you currently have can be used with Axle. And from there, we replicate the folder structure and show you the content and generate on the fly different proxies. So on the second day, I can see that there are, for example, some fireworks footage. I can click on it and preview the clip. This is the new Axle 2000. This is the new player. You have the same scrubbing capability that you have on Axle Pulse. However, this is what Sam mentioned earlier. You can basically mark in and mark out. And for example, I can say this is great shot here, comment, great shot. And I will have now this metadata that has been added to the timeline of my video. And all of that can actually be seen. And I can actually edit the comment that I have posted in order to retrieve it more easily, because as you can see, the name does not mean much. However, because I have different descriptions and tags and comments on the timeline, I will be able to retrieve these clips much more easily. And from there, you can also change the approval, and we also grab standard metadata that can be brought by the different cameras you have, such as the codec, the height, the width, and the frame rate. So how do I actually find these clips now? So we have a powerful search engine in Axel. We use Elasticsearch. It has been developed for many years with a lot of flexibility. So on the top of my Axel browser, right here, you will see that I have a search bar where I can plainly enter what I need. So I can do, for example, RNC, convention, and I will start to, not ink. Thank you, Safari, to correct. And so now I will retrieve the different clips that are associated to the convention. But if I only wanted the second day, for example, I can do day 2, for example, and I can filter down the clips as I need. And now I will only see the second day of what I have. And from there, I can either select the clips and download them, I can rename, I can add them to a specific bin, which would be a project area. I will get to that in a second. I can push it to an archive or transcode a new high-res clip if needed. We have also the advanced search, which will allow you to basically search by name or the different metadata fields that you have created. These fields are customizable. You can have a text field, a large text box that will show you a full transcript if you wanted to, radio button, a select drop-down menu. So you can define a very specific set of metadata that you would be able to use based on your needs. And from there, I can then look for content, does not content. I can have a pretty powerful search that will be then saved later on. So for example, right here, I have my RNC convention day 2 from the search result. I can basically save my search in Axel. As you can see, if I redo it, I go back to the main menu right here in Axel top right, and I have different options, including saving my search. And I will say RNC day 2, for example. And I will save my search. And this search will be retrieved on the left side within the smart filters. Now let me just talk a little bit more about the bins. This will be kind of your project area. This is where, once you retrieve your clips, you will be able to create subclips to push to your video editing solution of choice. So if I were to take this clip, for example, now that I have retrieved it, I can, of course, preview the clip, but as you can see, I have the subclipping here or the transcode. Let me just go here and mark it and mark out my clip. I forgot to mention, though, that we can also use the JKL keys to play backward, to play forward at different playback speed, as well as the I and O keys of your keyboard to mark in and mark out. And now if I go to my subclip tab right next to the comments, I can basically select a bin or my project that I have for the RNC convention and just say amnesty protest, for example. And basically what this will do is actually create a selection on the high-res media that I have inside my project. Let me jump to the project and show you what I mean. So now I clicked on the left side to be in my project, and you will see the different selections that I have made. I have different videos, because you can send straight to your project all the videos, as well as a selection. As you can see below the thumbnail, you will see the segment that has been marked for the editing. From there, basically, what I can do is export an XML for my NLE. So we support Premiere, we support Final Cut Pro 7 and 10, as well as currently under development, we are looking at creating an AAF file for Media Composer, if you were to use OP item clips. So now I can create my XML. It will download to my computer, and I can import this XML to my NLE. And I guess, Sam, if that's okay with you, maybe we can jump directly to the Premiere panel.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think from here, if you'd like to demo how our new panel for Adobe Premiere kind of ties in, and then we can talk a little bit, hand it back, and we'll talk about Axel Edit, and then wrap up with a demo of that.
Sounds good. So what you have seen earlier would produce an XML file with the in and out points and the marker sets into the NLE that will allow you to edit. What we have developed and launched earlier this year is a panel straight into Premiere Pro. It's just an extension. Once it is installed, I can basically click on my extension, and now you will see on the top left here, I have the login page for Axel. And this is a very simple interface we have included. I'm going to log in as the exact same user that I was logged in before. And once I log in, I will have access to the search tool as well as different folders that I had access to. So if I wanted to go back to the convention, I can click on it. And as I clicked, I will move forward and see the different clip. So what can I do from the browsing aspect? I can select one or multiple clips and import them into my project. We can also import full folders. I can take the first day and import this item, and it will import the full folder and keep the folder inside my project, as you will see below. Now I have my whole folder inside, and if I expand it, you will see that I have all my clips that have been imported. You can also use the search feature in Axel. So if I wanted to search, for example, again, day to RNC, you will see that I'm starting to filter, and I have different clips, and again, from there, based on my search result, I can import. So very easy, and once I have my clip imported, I can just go in and start to edit. Very easy to use. But let me just delete everything and show you what you can do from the bins in Axel. I'm going to cancel my search, and I'm going to go back to the home page. So I have my different catalogs, which will be the folder watched by Axel. But if I were to scroll down, bear with me, I have a very small screen here for the demo. Obviously, you will have a bigger screen with more real estate in your editing station. You will see that I have my RNC 2016 bin, which is the one that I had in my Axel server. And by pressing it, I will have the interview one, Trump motorcade, I have someone wearing a Luigi costume, all the selection that I have made, including the Amnesty International protest that I have just created, will be here. And from there, I can import the bin. It's the exact same workflow as if you were to create an XML file. And basically, what I will have here will be the different clip. And if I take my Amnesty protest right here, and I open it, you will see, let me zoom out a little bit, you will see that the selection that I have made is already there. And from there, I can just go ahead and start to edit based on my need. And if I were to have a marker set, I believe I have a comment set in the Trump motorcade right here. So I'm just going to add it here. You will see that I have the marker as well set in the project. If I open it, I will have the marker. So all the comments that you post in Axel associated to the timeline will be visible to the editor once you start to bring in the project into Axel. Into Adobe or Final Cut Pro. Sorry, thank you, Sam. And so this is basically it. We try to bring radical simplicity to your workflow. We easily show you the content of your storage. You can easily tag your assets, annotate them, and pass them along to your production and video editors.
Thanks, Patrice. That's great. Let's see. I'm going to switch back to presenting. Okay, so we've already given you a number of different steps in the workflow, and I think hopefully you've gotten a sense for how the iOS app in Axle Pulse can feed into this kind of curation and downstream post-production workflow. So you can do sub-clipping, you can feed it out to your craft editors, whether they're using Adobe or Final Cut. And at this point, I want to talk a little bit about another optional step in the workflow that may be of interest, particularly to broadcast customers and news organizations, and that's Axle Edit. So Axle Edit requires a bit more introduction than the Axle Pulse app. It's designed for dedicated field editors, let's say, folks who want to do more than just capture raw material and upload it, but actually might want to do a little bit of finishing on their mobile device. So Axle Edit runs on any iOS device, although it works best on the larger phones and on the iPads. And essentially, it's a full editing tool running natively as an iOS app. So whereas most of our other tools are browser-based, for this one, in order to get the responsiveness that we thought was essential, it's got a native iOS app. And you're able to drag clips in. It connects up, as have the other tools that you've been seeing, it connects up to the Axle media management system. But it also allows you to capture material in the field and combine that material with results of searches and bins on the Axle system. So with that, I think I'm going to hand it back to Patrice for a quick demo of Axle Edit. And looks like we're actually right on schedule to wrap up within the hour, so we may be able to take a few questions at the end.
Thank you, Sam. So what I'm going to show you here, again, it can be run on the iPhone, but I have an iPhone SE, which is very small screen, so it's not very practical to do any kind of editing in it. So what I'm going to do is just demo it from the iPad. And here's the app. So here I am, and I can actually sign into my Axle server. And I'm going to do that because that will show you how, if I am in a field in Cleveland, for example, I will be able to access some B-roll footage. So I'm just going to sign into my Axle system. Of course, that's when I decide to not do it. Bear with me. So once I'm logged into the Axle system, I will access I can access now the server. So very simple, I'll show you the tip. You can create projects, you can, so when I create the project, I will access the timeline. So once I access the timeline, I already brought some clip just to make it a little bit faster. This is on the top left, you will have the different transitions, standard clips that you may have. Below, you will see that I have already brought in some of the actual footage, but you can also bring in your local footage. So at the very top of the app, you will see that I have a little camera, and this will allow me to actually shoot whatever I need. So if I were to I can start to record and bring it straight into my edit station. So if I were in Cleveland, I would be able to record straight right away. And from there, I will have it in my local project. I can also bring it what exists in the app itself. So I can, for example, if I wanted to bring in some music, I can just go in and bring some music in, or I can bring in video. Now, the interesting part of the Axle Edit app is that if I wanted to edit and then go back to the Axle, I can access the bins, which is the collection again of assets, and I will retrieve again the amnesty protest that I have. So if I wanted to actually bring this clip, and I also bring the Luigi costume, why not? We are actually downloading the low-res H.264 proxy that has been generated by Axle. And the reason we do that is because you will need the footage right away, you can edit it. And also, now if I were to just go back and go offline in airplane mode, I can continue to edit because the proxy still exists. It's downloaded into the app, and I can edit it from there. So I have my selection of clips. I have the music if I wanted to use it. And I can start to just go in and just drag and drop my selection into the storyboard mode. And now just public measure, I'm just going to bring in some transition. So I already have something going on here, and I can play the clip. But for the people who are actually interested in the further editing options, you can switch back to the timeline. So right next to the magnet that you will see, you have on the right side the timeline features, and you can pinch in and out, zoom in and out your timeline. So let me just try to bring it at least. It looks like it's not very doing much. So I can go in and out, and I can see the different clips that I have. So what I can do, I've definitely brought a way too big of a clip here. So what I can do from there is I can select my clip, and I can trim. I can trim the different selections that I have and shorten it. I can also click on this one and shorten it. I can also cut the video by pressing right here. I can cut the video. So now I have made a new selection. I will cut this one as well. And I have cut my selection, and I can either delete or again trim it, or just bring straight a transition in between these two. And of course, we have a dedicated audio track, so I can bring in the music and start to edit straight off as well. So we can bring in something, some elements, more elements. And once I am done to edit, what I can do is export my clip, and I can either export it back to Axel. And so what Axel will do is render from the high res, not the low res proxy that you have made. Or I can make a quick draft straight into my B-roll of my iPad. And this is the Axel edit. Quick and easy way to edit clips that you may need while you're on the field.
Great, thanks, Patrice. All right, so I think what we'll do is move the presentation back. At this point, we have time for a few additional questions. I'm just going to go ahead and open things up. One question we have is the Axel Edit app only an iOS app, or are there web or Android versions available? Currently, it is iOS only. We are looking at having some other integrated edit options with Axel 2016. The main reason we can do that is that we have a REST API for the system, so it's very easy to build third-party integrations. And so we are looking at an integration with a browser-based editing system for some time in the near future. In general, we try and build all of our products in sort of an open architecture fashion using the latest web standards, and so it's pretty straightforward for us to add features, to add entire modules, as in the case of Axel Edit, and also to provide better and better integration over time, particularly as you can see with the Adobe Premiere app. A year ago, our main integration with Premiere was an XML export, but there are so many customers that have asked us for a tighter integration that it just made sense to do that, and of course we've been able to respond. So with that, I think we're pretty much wrapped up. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today, especially for JD, who was our fearless man on the street in Cleveland. But also feel free to contact any of us. Our email addresses are here in the user interface, in the GoToMeeting display. And we look forward to any questions you may have, either right after this event or at a later date. So thanks again, and look forward to your questions.